And before anyone says you're doing a shit job, I'm a mechanic, not a panel beater, so let's give it a go, eh?
It's been a long time coming. Everyone's been asking, how's Birdo's ute build? Well, guess what? She's bloody back and Birdo is hooking in. So a quick recap of what's happened so far. We bought the cheapest, shittiest patrol we could find and are going to build it from the ground up into the ultimate GQ ute. Ready to tour Australia and tackle the toughest tracks this country has to offer. Previously, Birdo stripped it down, prepped and braced the chassis with a 4-link suspension set up at the rear, 5-link at the front and GU diffs. In the next couple of episodes, he's going to be making brake lines, custom bar work, rust repairs and bodywork, retiring his green GQ and starting to make the ute look like an actual 4-wheel drive. Proudly supported by Opus, Ultimate 9, Superior Engineering, GME, Tie Gear, and in part by...
Another day back in the shed. Finally back onto the ute after a good month or so at least. I've got my new Superior Heim joint steering arm here. I got the correct one this time. I ordered the wrong one last time, so I've had to send it back, get the right one. So I'm gonna start by banging that in. But the next thing I'm gonna do on this, you might be thinking the chassis is done. Surely we're moving on to bodywork. But we're not. These are all the original brake lines and fuel lines out of this chassis. The 4-link goes in the way, so we're gonna have to remake all the brake lines, all the fuel lines, and instead of putting these crusty looking 30-year-old rusty inside pipe, I've got all new pipe, so I'll never have to worry about them. Rust blockages, them getting old and brittle and fatiguing and cracking, they're all just going to be fresh like the rest of the build. So I'm just winding that out so the wheels are straight, and then also the steering box is centered as well, so we get even turning both ways. To make new brake lines, I've got probably don't need this much, but there's 14 metres of brake line here that I've got from the brake shop, and it comes in a roll. You're probably thinking, how are you gonna make nice straight brake lines with a roll? Todd from Momentum, he's lent me this nice fancy Aeroflow. It's like a brake line roller, rolls it back out straight. So I've actually never used one of these, we'll figure it out, but I imagine it's as simple as putting it through all these rollers, winding it down, pulling it through. That's how you get it nice and straight. So now I can figure out how much I need. I've got to do the front diffs from the calipers out, and then I also need to do all along the chassis to the proportion valve, a whole bunch. So this is going to take ages. I want to get these mounted to pretty much the spot where they work, so I want to get all the bolt holes and brackets all figured out on how I'm going to mount the new lines to start with. And I've done some bracing up the front, which has covered some holes, so I might have to drill and tap a few holes for a couple of factory brackets. And I actually only need to make one brake line all the way to the back instead of a return because I don't have that funny proportion valve. I have a manual one, so I'll give you a look at that when I get to it. Since I've welded over this one, I need to re-drill it and tap it. When you're tapping, it's always better to go slow. A little bit forward, back, clear the shreds, a little bit forward. And then once you get all the way through threaded, it goes like butter. So that's going to be able to hold this, no drama now. I'm just getting everything mounted, so brake proportion valve. Instead of having the big thing with the arm and the spring, which is like load sensing, I can just adjust this with the twist of a knob. As you can see, more pressure, in and out. More of what people use in race cars when you really want to fine tune your brakes. So it's going to be good. Depending on the weight on the back of the car, I can change it more or less brakes. I'm going to mount it right here to my 4-link upper bracket. That way the lines will come over. I'll kick in and then I'll kick back over. Keep it nice and tucked out of the way from anything that's going to get damaged. Tray's going to be here, cab finishes here, so it's going to be protected from everything. I'm going to drill this in and tap the holes.
With the brake proportioning valve mounted, Birdo can move on to making the first line.
I'm going to make the first run from, there's a distribution block from factory. So I'm going to make the first line from there and go back all the way to the proportion valve. To bend all these up, I've got SP Tools little hand bender for brake lines. So I'm going to go straight to 90. You can tweak these all with your hands. I'm gonna leave it slightly long, but I bent that first section a bit too long. So I've got little pipe cutters. These are just from Bunnings. They're made for copper pipes, little plumbing tool. Another day back in the shed. I really only worked on this for an hour or two yesterday afternoon. So on the way home, I stopped past Macquarie Brakes and Exhaust. See my mate Benny Richards? He lent me his flaring tool. So I've got a nice full bench flaring tool. I'm gonna use that, pull this line off, show you how to do some flares. Hopefully I can figure it out, I haven't done it before. So this is the first one that I've made. Follows the chassis pretty well perfectly. See if we can get a nice bend on it. See if we can get a nice flare on it. Bend wasn't the word, Tyler. So I've got that locked in there now. I've got the flare on. Make sure that's on. So I've got it on OP1, first part of the flare. It's a two-part flare. Flare section 1 done. He's all alone through the day and night. Flare section 2 done. As you can see, there's just little dies and they go into the pipe to flare it. When you pull that, it gives the full squeeze. So I'll get that out, we'll get a look at it. I think that's a pretty good flare. I'm gonna do the same for this other side. It's pretty hard to film all this over here in the corner. I'll see what I can get done for you. Hold the phone. The lonely stoner, Mr. Solo Dolo. He's on the move. That also looks like a pretty good flare. Matches up with the nut. Looks just like the factory one. I'm gonna go put that in the car, see how it goes. The pain is deep. A silent sleeper, you won't hear a peep peep. The girl who wants straight into the proportional valve. Boom. Follows the bend of the chassis. Maintains a good, 10, 15, 20 mil gap the whole way along. Boom, boom. Straight up into the block with a nice curve and clearance the whole way. To continue that rear line from the proportion valve, I need to mount my rear hard line, which I have cut the bracket off because it was in a different position to where it's going to be now. And that's all right, we've still got a welder. And then I'll put the bracket somewhere here so then I can get the hard line just to go up and over, down straight into that. And then I've got lots of brake line length for flex. You've got one bracket, hold the brake line, weld it to the chassis, see how that goes. The lonely nights, they fade away, he slips into his white Nikes. He smokes a clip and then he's on the way. To free his mind and searcher, to free his mind and searcher, to free his mind and searcher. Day and night. So I'm trying to retain the factory mounting so I don't have to drill and tap all of them. So I'll do that up.
More bends, more cuts, more flares, time-consuming job, but wasn't too much longer and Berto had the rear done and he could move on to the front. He's all alone, some things will never change. The lonely loner seems to free his mind at night.
So next job, I'm going to put the diff in so that this mounts to it. So I don't want to make brake lines unless it's in the right spot. So I'm just going to get a front diff. I'm going to get a hammer. Stay right there. Now the diff's in. Bolts that to there. So now I can make the lines that run along here and go over to the soft lines and on this side as well. All right, so this line here has been a very difficult line to make. So I haven't filmed much of it at all, but now that I can probably get this bend in and do the rest of them on camera. It's a bit of a learning curve. It's almost like plumbing, but not. You're probably thinking, why is this one up over here? They normally run down through here. I used to run mine like that, and then one day I actually rubbed through the spring compressed so much with all the up travel that it pinched the hard line and created a leak. So I'm gonna try and get this down a smidge, which you can bend it just with your hands. Goes down, sort of gets protection from this. It's not really gonna grab a stick. Straight up out of there, over. So now I can make this one. This one's gonna be a lot easier. Let's get on to doing that. Don't forget, always slide this thing on first. You gotta make sure the dies are flush home. Next thing to do, we need to mount these so that they're not just hard mounted. We don't want them cracking and whatever. So we got some rubber P-clips. Slides over nicely. get my paint pen, mark where they are, drill and tap this, and then they're mounted perfect. They're both tapped, drilled. Now I'll go get some screws. It's a bit hard to film, so I'll give you a look at what I've done so far. So a distribution block comes out, goes along, some nice bends down into braided line. I don't have the circlip on it. Then we have front passenger, nice bend, rubber mounted hard line, nice bends. Not gonna get in the way of anything, nice and clean. Better than the old ones. Especially this one here. This is the one that I always snap or crush between here with the factory one. So I've given it more clearance, put it in a different routing. But then we also go down out of the distribution block for the rear. There is mounts, I've just got them off currently. Kinks around the chassis, normally there's a big gap just here, but I've held it tight to it. So from down the front, into the proportion valve, and then since the 4-link box is up here where the normal lines go, I've had to kick it out 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree. Follow the channel up along the chassis, all the way over the coil tower. Let me just climb back over. We follow up over this nice rubber guard that they give you. I'm probably gonna put one more mount over here, and then it goes down into the rear braided line. The rear braided line from Superior. And now I need to make the two left and right to the side to the brake caliper soft lines.
Berto got the last couple of rear lines made, and then he didn't touch the ute for about 6 months. We moved houses, built multiple other vehicles, went to Cape York, and a whole heap of things, but skip forward, and we are back into it about 6 months later.
Let's scratch my fuel tank off. Smash her.
She's back.
She's back.
I'm back.
She's back, baby.
We're bloody back.
I reckon it's been at least 6 months.
And then in the meantime, you've had 976,000 people ask you, where's the ute?
Yeah, when's the ute done? How far off is the ute? Yeah, it hasn't changed. It's still far off. I need to get the cab mounted, as you can see, too big. So job one today is I'm gonna cut the inner guard with a hole saw because I've got raised towers so I can sit it flat, mount it. And then the first actual proper job, which I'm looking forward to, is I'm gonna make sliders. All right, next step, I'm gonna put the hoist under this body, lift it off, so then I can trim out those coil towers. Cab off and the chassis rolled out. This is what I need to cut off. Top of the factory inner guards. So since I've got the raised towers, it raises them up and it actually fouls on this before the cab mounts hit the chassis. I was just gonna hole saw it. I don't think I'm gonna do that now. I've got the little air hacksaw and then I'll put it back up, put the chassis under, make sure I can go down, make sure there's enough clearance. And then I am gonna re-brace this. So normally you cut these out and then they crack all off them because there's a fair bit of strength in this section. I've got my safeties. This is the tool I'm gonna be using, SP little air saw. It is really good for cutting body metal, especially around tight corners. I think that looks a lot better than using a hole saw. And it's actually a lot easier. I didn't break my wrist trying to drill a 100mm hole saw hole. All right, so now that I've got those cut out, I'm gonna put this back up, roll the chassis back in, and we're gonna see if it fits.
With the body mounted and sitting in its correct position, front shocks coming into the engine bay, and guards back on, everything was in place that Berto could start measuring up and making the sliders. Beginning with the slider mounts to the chassis, and I believe he decided to make the mounts for his rear hoops at the same time.
I've done a bit of CAD, made a bit of cardboard templates. So now I'm gonna mark it out onto my 10mm plate and I'm gonna cut it out.
The drop saw we have, it does the job, but bloody hell it's messy and noisy. Thinking of maybe upgrading to a bandsaw, now that Berto is doing quite a bit of fab work in the shed. Drop a comment down below if you guys have any recommendations on a good bandsaw to get.
That should be all the mounts I need cut. For the rear hoop, the sliders, Now that I have the rear headboard plates cut out roughly, we figured out you can't, this is going to be on the chassis like this, and you're not allowed to weld vertically on the chassis. So I'm going to take a 45 and a 45 and a 45 and a 45, because you're allowed to weld diagonally and horizontally, but not vertically on the chassis. So I am going to give these a rough clean up with this to make sure I don't cut myself. So SP has a little deburrer. I'm just going to see how we go with her. Works beautiful. That isn't the ideal saw for cutting metal, rather like a bandsaw, cold saw type thing. This one just leaves a bit of slag and sharp bits all over it. All right, so for this one, these are 180 long. So I've just made up in my mind that I'm gonna go 40 mil and then 40 mil from each end. And I've done that to all of them. And then I've got my angle at 90 degrees. And then I'm gonna mark that 40 straight down so it's across. Switch it this way, so I've got the long way going across and it's more accurate. 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40. 40, 40, 40, 40. So now I'm gonna go 45. I'm just gonna put a mark and see what it looks like. That actually looks pretty good on 30 degrees. I'm gonna go. So I think I like the look of that. Gives me plenty of room to go 40 MB. Just gonna trace it so I can visualize it. Let's figure out what this gap, we want this gap to be. I might just go measure on the car. I can come all the way out here. Just 50 mil, I need to be 50 mil from the edge. All right, so another day back in the shed. I was thinking last night, those are the plates that I made for the front of the headboard. I don't like how they sit because there's the chassis bracing. The old chassis bracing goes just here and the body mount's here, and I need to put the mount in this vicinity here, from there to here, but I can't, so I've made this. I've got the tapered edges so I can weld them and not be vertical. That won't get welded just there. And then I can weld the plate onto the top of both of these. And this will double for the other side if I turn it around. So the easiest way to get this cut out of metal, I've got some 130 tall, which is about what the original bracing is. I'm gonna put this down, trace him onto that, and then I will make a second one as well. I'm gonna put this in the vise. I'm just gonna cut this with the grinder. Boom, 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 boom. They're gonna be a bit tricky to cut, these ones, but we'll get it sorted. Now that I've got both of these made, boom, boom, two of them, I'm gonna go prep the chassis a little bit. I'll get these welded on, or tacked on, paint these, weld through primer, and tack them on, see if I like them. For the next part, I've got the plates. I've got two matching pairs. I've cut them out so that they're matching pairs. I've got a piece of 40 MB because that's what I'm going to bend off this plate. So I'm going to sit one here, do a bit of a circle around it. I'm going to do a bit of a circle around this one as well. So then I know roughly where those two tubes are going to be, so I can know where to put the holes for. So I'm about to drill through both of these, and then I'll tap the bottom one so that I can have these bottom one welded to the chassis, top one bolted on, and sliders so they come off. So you can unbolt them. 2020. Mill is here. So now that I've got them all marked out, centre punch. So now that I've got all them centre punched, I'm going to drill it in the drop saw. Next up, I've got an 8.5mm drill bit, so I need to tap it out to 10 by 1.5. That's the bolts that I've got to go through these. Then I can do the same for all the other ones. So I've got another 5 mounts to drill and tap after this. Hello? Hello? Bing bong, bing bong. Let's just redo what I did. Now that I have all the holes drilled, I have the tap for the back plate. I'm going to tap a nice hole. So you want to try and start this off as straight as you can. Hit it with a bit of oil. get some nice lubrication on there. And I want to go, you know, turn, then back, turn, and then back. And you do that so it clears all the metal that it cuts out of the tap. So now I've got the bolts that I'm going to be using. I can start that with my fingers. Nice thread cut into that. So I'm going to continue doing that for the rest of these holes, for the back plates. And then I'll, you know, I've got a lot that I need to make.
And we've lost sound again, but I think you get the idea. That's those mounts done.
Boom, 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 boom. Now that I've got the brackets made for the headboard, I'm going to move on to making the slider brackets. So I'm going to have 2 on each side, and then I'm going to make 1 right at the front. So they're going to have 3 over the short span of a ute, so they won't have much deflection. It's a bit more load spread compared to my wagon. My wagon ones move everywhere. I never even had the 3rd one, I was only the front 2. So I think my plan is to just measure, I don't know whether I do 10 or 15 mil. If I do 10 mil, they'll be right on the outside. So I'll do that, I'll do 10 mil. 10 mil from each edge, and then I'll straight line them, and then I'll center punch and drill all of them.
Who's to know if your soul will fade at all? The one you sold to fool the world. You lost your self-esteem along the way.
So I've got this 1 plate all tapped, so now I've got a countersink bit. I'm just going to take the sharp edges off. So that makes it a little bit easier for the bolt to go in. There's nothing sharp for it to catch on. I'm going to tap all them and repeat the process for all of it. Now that I've got these made and all ground so I can put them on the chassis, I'm going to see where the best 2 spots are to put these, and then I will clean the chassis up, get them tacked on, and we'll start making a slider.
No sense in hiding all of yours.
Berto worked out where he wanted the mounts to go for the sliders and then started on the tube work. Got the old no sound special going on, but looks like he's worked out some measurements, begun some cuts and notching, but we will catch up with him the next day when the sound is back on.
Boom, 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 boom. Another day in the shed. I'm going to continue on with the slider. I've already got the main part and a couple of mounts made. So now I need to make the bent bit that comes out. That'll be either a step / the slider itself. So I'm not sure exactly what angles I'm going to bend. I've never made any before, so this is a first. So got my Speedworks bender, makes it nice and easy. I've got my digital inclinometer, so I can figure out the angles. So I like to mark the start of the die, so that if I need to go and rebend, I know that's exactly where I started my bend, and I can put it in the exact same spot, and I won't mess the bend up going any further. So I've got this bent to 65 degrees, that's where I'm going to start. So now I need to figure out how long I need to make the next bend to get it to line up with the front of the main tube that I've got cut out. So I've got my main piece, which I know is the length that I need it, and then I've got my 60-degree bend and the whole 3.5 metre length. But I've also got this pre-bent one from when I was making the roof rack the other day. I'm not a very good fabricator, and I'm not sure how to make where I start that bend to where I should cut that piece apart. But I know if I've got the same bend, on a little piece, I can just mark start of bend on the long one from where the start of bend is on this extra piece, and if I bend it to that's 60 degrees, if I bend that to the 60 degrees, then I'm going to be in the right spot when I make it. That's how I go about it. I'm not sure how other people do it. I've just marked start a bend from this one over to this one, so I know where to bend it to get that 60 degrees. I think that's going to be a good angle just there. And now I'm going to leave it long, so I'm going to cut that off there, bend it, and then I can, whatever else hangs off, I can cut and notch. But I've actually marked this piece every 10 mil starting here from a metre, so it's 1 metre, 1100, 1200, 1300, 1400, 1500, 1600. So I know this one's going to be about 1700 of this tube that I'm using, so that I know next time I need to make some for a ute, I can just cut that at 1700 and I'll have like all the measurements and pre-bends in my phone. Mate, I'm doing fabricating, mate. Come in here and you're going to get in trouble, mate. Now that we've got this cut, put this back in the bender. You've got to make sure you do it the exact same way. If you flip this around and then go bend from your mark, it'll end up being bent from the wrong side and it'll be too short or too long. Don't ask me how I found out. Me and Todd figured it out when we're doing that. So once I bend this too, I'll be able to know how much from my mark I actually need to make the bend, because I'm not sure it like shrinks or it uses more to get the shorter distance, and I'll be able to use these marks to figure out exactly what I used. Starter bend lined up here. I've got him resting there. I've got the line that I filed on the top straight up in the same spot as that bend, so that they're on the same plane. And now, make it so it holds. Turn this on. Zero it. Zero that on the pipe. And then we're going to go up to 65 degrees. As you can see, I've got that to 60.25, close enough for me. So now I'm going to pull this off, go and sit this over that bit, and then I'll get it all symmetrical, see how much I've got to cut off. They do get a bit tight in here. Give them a bang. So that is by eye 100 mil, by eye 100 mil. That's going to be the gaps we want, and then we'll need we'll obviously make all the little pieces like this. That's a line where I want the center of the center of notch. So we'll make them longer than that. I'll just go bottom as well. I'll mark the back side. I'll take this over to the notcher and I'll figure out how to get that lined up. The notcher's all angled. You can set it to the thing. So if I can set it to 60 degrees, because that's what I know what that is. I think that's how I do it. I'll do some brainstorming and figure it out. I can't use the notcher to notch it because the bend, this is the angle I need to notch it, and the bend doesn't let me get far enough in. So I don't know how to go about that. I measured in the middle of the pipe. I'm gonna cut these bang in the middle of the pipe at that, that's a 30-degree angle, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna cut that at 30, and then I'll probably have to notch it out with the grinder. Since I can't notch it with that, I'll just cut it with a grinder, and I'll try and get it all notched out. We'll get it fit up. All right, that took way too long. I'm gonna get these tacked on so that I can hold it up to the two mounts that I've already made, and then fold it up and see if I like where it sits. All right, I've got big T-dogs coming to have a look.
I've been allowed in your shed.
Allowed in the shed. So, right, my plan is, this is what I made. I just wanted you to stand back and tell me what it looked like.
Yeah.
Like, I can hold it, but I reckon...
And then I can hold it and you can look.
Yeah, I reckon that looks pretty good. You know,
That looks good.
There's heaps of clearance.
The only thing is you won't have heaps of step on it, depending if you want
Yeah,
step.
I don't give a shit about the step.
Yeah, okay.
Remember last time I had the step, I get caught everywhere?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much just making these as like protection.
Yeah. Well, if you're going for like protection and like maximum
looking.
full driving ability,
Yeah.
you're just going to lose a bit of a step ability.
So now I'm going to put a notch on this. I'm going to try with a 45 and we'll have a look, see what it looks like. Drill just blew up, that's fine. All right, we're back. I had to go out, switch the breaker back on, take the drill back. Now, I've upgraded, mate. I've got a Makita. It's double the price of that other one. We'll see if it'll last 4 weeks, because I've had that other one for 2 weeks. Just gotta find all my safety gear. Let's see if we can finish this off and get a couple of these made. So funny thing is, I've actually don't have the right size hole saw. I just grabbed that the other day, they didn't have the right sized one, so it's a couple mil small. So I still have to clean all this up. I'm just gonna make a couple of them, and then I'm gonna get to grinding them, and then I'll show you how they fit. So before I went and blew up the drill, I made one and got it tacked in. So I've made the rest now. I've measured them out. I've divided this gap here by 4. Boom, boom, boom. It's gonna look a little bit like that. I'm gonna get these tacked in. I've got it all tacked up. I'm gonna move this off this bench so I can, I'm probably gonna go and put it over onto where I need to and tack it over there. So I might need Tyler's help for this. I know it's slightly up at the back. That's what I need to, I think I need to like break one of the tacks off the back and then just like kink it. The other thing is I don't want it to be too close, because even if that's like a close fit now, if I hit a rock and this bends up, I won't be able to open the door. That gap's way better, eh? So the door still has to go up, it's low at the back. It sits like up here. So next up, I'm gonna pull these off. I'm gonna undo them, pull it off, weld it all out, and then I'll give you a look of them while they're off the car on the ground. Straight piece of tube, the bent to, the 4 little notched ones, but these have like compounding angles. There's one angle this way and this way, and that one's that way and that way, and that one's just a flat bit of plate. So I'm happy with how it looks. I still have to cap the ends off. I might even trim them down slightly, make them flush so that there's not just like a random piece of pipe hanging out. I'll be happy with that. So I'll have to repeat it for the other side, but that looks pretty good to me. Am I ever gonna see your face again? Another day in the shed. I got the other side, the passenger side slider, all done as well. So I'm gonna roll this out now. I'm gonna move on to something else. That something else is, today's the day that I retire the green car. So, I don't know, I think everyone should know by now. It's seen better days. It's got a few things where it probably shouldn't be on the road anymore. So instead of trying to keep spending money and fixing it, I'm just gonna get all the good stuff off that and put it into my ute. So it's gonna save me a whole bunch of time, whole bunch of money, whole bunch of expensive parts. So let's get this out. I'll give you a look at the sliders.
Who's to know if your soul will fade at all? The one you sold.
Sliders all done, obviously just need a paint job. We are going to finish up that episode there though. Make sure to tune in next week to see all the damage to the green GQ and why Birdo is pulling it to pieces.